Good evening, and welcome to the Monday, November 14th, 2022 Litchfield Board of Selectmen meeting. The board just came out of a non-meeting with legal counsel and a paperwork review. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask everyone to please stand for a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First, we have the review and approval of consent items. We have an account payroll manifest of November 1st, 2022, in the sum of $116,137.15, and November 8th, 2022, in the sum of $94,583.06, November 15th, 2022, in the sum of $41,120.94. We have a payroll manifest of November 3rd, 2022, in the sum of $82,987.87. November 10th, 2022, in the sum of $61,971.95. November 17th, 2022, in the sum of $58,778.06. We have the September Treasurer's Reconciliation, the October Tax Collector's Reconciliation, and the October Town Clerk Reconciliation. Are there any items members would like to remove from consent? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve?
So move.
Motion by Mr. LaSalle's.
Yes.
Second by Mr. Lynch. All those in favor, Mr. Larry.
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's.
Aye.
Mr. Lynch.
Aye.
Ms. Queenan.
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries 5-0-0. Is there any other business members would like to add this evening? Hearing none, public input will occur no earlier than 6:45 this evening. First item of business is the approval of the October 24th, 2022 minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review, and are there any comments or questions?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion by Mr. Leary.
I'll second.
We have a second by Ms. Queenan. All those in favor, Mr. Leary.
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's.
Aye.
Mr. Lynch.
Aye.
Ms. Queenan.
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries 5-0-0. Next, we have the update with representation from the school board. The Board of Selectmen had asked for the school board to come and talk about the CIP process and also what was going on with the monies concerning the project. On Thursday evening, I received an email from Ms. McDonald and it said, "Dear Chairman Weber, it is my understanding that the Select Board has requested that members of the school board and district attend the November 14th, 2022 Select Board meeting. We are happy to do so in order to work collaboratively and cooperatively in the best interest of the town. We would like to be clear about the goals and the topics of this meeting so that we can be prepared. From the perspective of the Select Board, please advise no later than Sunday evening what the desired outcome is for this meeting, as well as what subjects will be raised/discussed. Additionally, we would like to be clear about the parameters of the meeting. Specifically, we expect that all attendees, ourselves included, will be treated others with respect and that will not be personal attacks of any kind. Questions and concerns are welcome, lectures and accusations are not. We sincerely hope this meeting will be collaborative, not confrontational. Our attendance at the Select Board meeting is a good faith gesture that we believe is in the best interest of the town. Although the school board and Select Board are separate entities and neither has the authority or oversight over the other, there are certainly opportunities for us to collaborate, including facilities improvement and school safety. We look forward to hearing from you. Kind regards, Liz and Heidi." From that, I had Selectman Leary draft a response since I was taking care of some personal issues. Vice Chairman Leary wrote, "To Mr. Jetty and members of the school board, the Litchfield Select Board requested a meeting with you a few weeks ago concerning the 2021-2022 overspend of the special district budget. Tomorrow evening, the Select Board would like to discuss details of the school district's end-of-the-year closure, audit results, and basic timeline of the events that occurred. We, as well as constituents who have reached out, have questions regarding the 2023 deficit and your plans to address this issue as well. The school board stated publicly they had no knowledge of what took place, so we feel the superintendent's presence is important and necessary. We believe Dr. Jetty may provide the clarity we are seeking and is best equipped to answer our questions and concerns. Board members are welcomed and encouraged to attend, as well as Mr. Toten, if he has insight on the situation. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow evening. Most sincerely, F. Robert Larry, Vice Chairman, Litchfield Board of Selectmen." Okay, would the school board like to come forward, please?
Good evening.
Good evening, welcome.
Congratulations to the football team.
Yeah,
You did
win.
well.
Great
You did
day.
very well.
For any of you there, it was awesome. It really was a great day.
I'd like to ask, where's the superintendent tonight?
There was some confusion because the original email we got was from saying it was a school board meeting. So we assumed it was a school board meeting, and then we got your email at 11:15 or 10:30 last night. Dr. Jetty is our employee. We've outlined where we're going, where we're planning to go. I don't think he belongs here.
He absolutely belongs here. He's the only one that had knowledge of this. You folks publicly stated at your meeting, none of you had knowledge of this as it was going on. He's the only one that had knowledge. He should be here
Why?
to answer the questions that only he could answer.
From who? You?
From all of us.
Do you want me to start asking questions about the police department and the fire department right now? That's not in my purview.
We didn't blow a $1.5 million deficit.
It wasn't $1.5 million.
Without the superintendent here to answer the questions, I really see no point in this meeting. And I will make a motion
I'm
that
sorry
we
you feel that
discuss
way.
this at a time when the superintendent can make himself available to talk to us. So I will make that motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Larry.
Ready? No? Okay.
Can I speak?
1 second.
No?
Kevin, are you seconding for discussion?
No, I'm not gonna second the discussion right yet. I have a question. The last two meetings ago, I believe, we've asked that we look into the audit. That's the most important thing, that we need to figure out what's going on. I agree with Bob that the superintendent and the finance people should be here, because they are the ones who handle the finances. You're just the board, and that's like we are with everything, where our department's going crazy,
Right.
okay?
Which run side by side. None of us have control over either
I
board.
fully understand that. I think we need to figure out what happened,
Oh, I agree.
okay? And have you asked for an audit to be done independently? Mm-hmm. You have?
No, it's in process.
No, but
But
it's
I don't
in
think we need to
process.
share it with the select board. That's our
Okay,
department.
I agree with what Bob is saying, but I understand it has to go through your division. Mm-hmm. Just like our department has to go through our division, Bobby. You know what I'm saying? Police, fire, and everything else. Okay? The audit is the most important part of this whole thing.
Agree.
I got taxpayers out there asking me what the hell is going on.
Why aren't they asking us?
Well, I did refer,
That's
Thank you.
just my question.
okay?
Appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you for
Okay, I've
forwarding
always
that.
I think the reason why they come to us is the tax bill comes from town hall.
Gotcha.
Right?
I can
So
see that,
people's
right.
perception is that
Sure.
everything comes to the selectmen. Also, residents are gonna reach out to whom they're comfortable with.
Sure.
In
As all elected
Massachusetts, yeah.
officials, we should work together to answer the questions of, the master. We all go right to the taxpayers. So
Absolutely.
there are times like, I'll get stuff for the school, people ask about bus routing and so forth, and we'll pass it off the right thing. So there are times where we all have to answer to the taxpayer, and they're gonna be comfortable going to one board over the other.
Yeah.
Because they don't see it as two separate boards.
Like Massachusetts, they're
Correct.
all intertwined.
So, and that's why. So it's not like anyone's trying to control anybody. We're all taxpayers here. We have a huge problem in front of us. And it just seems that individuals aren't getting the answers they want, and that they're going to any elected official they can in order to try to get answers.
And so my response, may I respond to that?
Of course.
My response to that would be, we held a forum on September 19th to allow the public to come and ask questions. I believe all 5 of you were able to attend that day. We have continued to discuss the topic at our school board meetings, which remain open, have public comment twice in our agenda. We continue to read all correspondence that comes in, and we haven't received a single correspondence since the September 19th meeting about this issue. And so I understand that you guys may get questions, and I certainly can see why people in town
confusing.
may believe that you can answer them. But likewise, when we get a question about the town, we refer it over to you. So I appreciate that you are referring those questions over to us, because I think it's important to, one, read them into the record. It's, as the vice chair, it's my job to track all the correspondence, and so I've been trying to make a really concerted effort to list out the details of every single correspondence we're getting. And so that would be my first response. My second response would be, we do not have the audit report yet. That's what started this whole thing that was happening over July, so we will have that at some
So an
point.
independent auditor was hired?
Not the independent, just
So you're
the-
just having the regular audit go
We
back
haven't
through?
even received that report yet.
But are you, I guess the question a lot of people are asking is there going to be an independent
So-
auditor coming through?
We
Has
are-
the
What
school
our
board-
hope is.
We're discussing that. What we're trying to weigh out is what is the costs, and so we have to figure out if it costs $100,000 to have someone come in and do a forensic accounting of our accounts, what is the cost benefit analysis to that? We don't know, and that's what we have.
We're doing our
I mean,
due
based off
diligence,
of the
yeah.
error that happened, I think $100,000 would be worth it so it doesn't happen again. Because, I mean, people have come to me, there's comments, people are very concerned about that. Each individual project, you don't know what you're spending for each one. It's been done as a lump sum. There hasn't been like project 100.2, 100.4, 100.3, and we have the same, we have the same manager for both of them, who's doing stuff on GMS, did stuff for the vestibule, did it, and when he bills, from what I hear, it doesn't sound like he's billing per line, or we're not capturing it per line.
Yep.
So we really don't know which project. So I think it's worthwhile to go back through.
Oh,
and
anything to
change
learn
everything
from a
and forth. So,
mistakes,
I mean, I
absolutely.
think, from my standpoint, I think we all of us as elected officials owe it to the taxpayer
Agreed.
to answer those questions. And I think the struggle is people don't feel that anybody's answering those questions.
And it
But-
doesn't make
and-
a difference whether it's a school board or a select board, we're all the same group. A lot of people are from Mass here, this Massachusetts, I'll let it go with that,
We know you're from Litchfield.
okay?
We all know.
Okay, but we're all the same group, okay, it all comes out of the same pocket. We issued the tax bill, yours, okay? And I think we need to figure out and make sure that's fair. I wanna know what happened. I've been in construction all my life. I've never seen anything go this far out.
And I think, again, I would refer you back to the September 19th presentation, because that is the explanation we have been given. And I understand we need to you're asking us to dig deeper on that,
Yes.
and we are.
I am not a financial accountant, I am a special ed teacher, I believe the numbers in front of me, and I stand by that 100%.
But I also, to the extent that you're getting questions, we can't answer them if they're not being asked of us. And so that's the difference. There's a breakdown in communication. So if you're referring the questions you're receiving to
All
us,
the time.
they're not making it there.
I think the
We're not getting
frustration
them.
that from I understand the residents had is they asked questions, their questions weren't answered. So now they're coming, in the way they wanted them answered, they weren't answered fully. So now they're coming to anybody they can, who's elected, who can go help. So that's the
Can
point
I
we're at.
specify they weren't answered, or they weren't answered the way they wanted? Because I think the questions were, I have pledged, Liz has pledged, we have pledged transparency in this process. And so I understand people may not agree with that, but we have pledged to have transparency. And so we want to be able to reassure the town that this will not happen again. There are new things I'm sorry, what?
But the problem with this 1.5, whatever is 1.3, whatever the number is, okay? That affects the tax cap for the town, okay? And the bottom line budget is what we have to look at for the town. So you gotta look at how you're gonna operate your budgets now with that loss in it, okay? And that's how I feel about it. You know, you guys got a hole in the wall, okay? And that's gonna be adjusted through your operating budgets. To bring that back, instead of bringing it back to the taxpayers and make a mistake. That's my bottom line, okay? That's how I feel about it.
I want you to know, after September 19th, I've never been spoken to that way, I've never been treated that way, and it was very easy for me to walk away, for Heidi to walk away, for anyone else to walk away. It was not a good look for Litchfield, and I'm still here, and I'm still getting beat up, and I could walk away. My kid's done in 6 months. I don't need this anymore, but I want to help fix what's going on, and we are working behind the scenes, but we need to figure out how to, or we're going to go over the questions and the scope we need.
Transparency is what I'm looking for,
Understood.
okay, completely. for the town and the school board to bring it out, what the hell happened, excuse my language,
Line by, I agree.
okay? And that's the bottom line,
And
okay?
And
I think we have tried. I do think we are working on that, okay?
You better step on toes.
We may have to step
we are
on
stepping
toes.
on
That's what I
toes.
meant.
Yeah.
We do not have to, and that's, I think, where there's some frustration, is that, we're here today because we wanna work with you. We want to collaborate. There are areas where we can work cooperatively and together. School resource officer would be is one that we've already started. Facility improvement is another area, school safety. We wanna have all of those conversations, but when, to me, it seems like we're getting an email that is insisting that we produce our district employee for an interrogation by a board that does not have jurisdiction or authority over that employee, it does not feel like that collaboration is reciprocated.
Well, when you send an email basically accusing us that we're not gonna treat you professionally, when have I ever not treated anybody who came before this board professionally? And I read that email, Liz, that you sent, and I was taken back. I'm like,
Well,
really?
there are
I
things
mean,
online and things that happened that night that have directly affected school board members, their children, by people who you all know in this room, in public. It's hurtful. It isn't what Litchfield's about.
100% been there myself, but
Yeah, oh,
nobody has
absolutely.
ever not been respectful to anybody sitting in front of this board, so.
This
but
board. But what about on September 19th?
I'm saying to this board,
Oh,
so for
that's
you to
fine.
be fearful to come here.
We
that
were.
Yeah, we are.
We are.
But why, what have we ever done? When have I ever taught?
He threatened to call the police on us
Not
if
on
we
you.
showed up to
He
CIP.
threatened
He
on
threatened to
you.
call it on Dr. Jetty if he came to the CIP meeting. He did.
He told me I had no integrity at the last school board meeting. You said Andrew has more integrity. You, and you.
I
That is-
absolutely did. And I stand by it. And unlike some of you folks over there who don't admit what you say, I said it, I stand by it, I still believe it. That man's got more integrity than the rest of the board combined, which was my statement that night.
That was the budget committee, right?
And you don't think
That
that's
was
a
when I went
You
to
don't
the school
think
board.
that's
comment?
disrespectful?
That was on the school board stuff, okay.
Do I think it's disrespectful?
Yes.
I think it was warranted.
Is it disrespectful?
You can
Would
do
you
it
like
any
someone
way
to
you want.
speak to your wife that way or your daughter? Because I know my husband didn't
Daughter can
appreciate
handle
it.
herself, and so can my wife.
Well, I don't appreciate it,
Regardless-
neither does my family.
Chairman Weber, you asked us.
We're going
Okay,
down a
yeah,
bad
yeah,
path
okay.
here.
Yep.
We're all members, we're all
Yep.
friendly.
You asked us
Yes.
why we felt the need to send that email, why we were fearful.
I'm getting all-
We have reiterated that reason. So again, to the rest of you who want to work with us collaboratively, we truly appreciate that and we want that opportunity. And we see a lot of areas for us to be able to work together.
And we are doing things behind the scenes to get what you want.
And you talk about treating people with respect. I watch how you treat Mr. Cutter. I watch you guys just land-based him up one side and down the other that night that I spoke at your meeting. And then you went into non-public and did the same thing.
How would you know
didn't
that?
know that.
Always
How do
make
you
sure-
know that?
Let me tell you, you should always make sure that there's nobody in the lobby when you go in non-public, especially when you start.
There was no
Doing what you
voices
did.
raised in non-public.
Okay.
You know what?
Mr. Chairman, there's one particular thing that I am specifically interested in, which is the CIP.
Yes.
And is there anything that we have two members of the school board here tonight? Is there anything that we can cover with them, particular to the CIP, that will help us as selectmen make future decisions?
Well, I don't think there's anything on the CIP we can do right now because they're over actually
Doing it.
putting everything right now into the year and so forth. So once they do that, they're gonna present it to the planning board.
Next week?
Then there'll be a
Next meeting?
public hearing where members of the public can ask questions concerning it. Then it'll be back to the Board of Selectmen for us to accept it or reject it.
But we're here with two members of the school board. Is there anything that they can fill us in with respect to the CIP? You've already presented to CIP.
They
mean,
presented
Kim-
last week, it's on my committee report. and they-
And it was
Okay.
supposed to end last night, but you were missing, last time, and you were missing information, and you're working through it. They're working through it
They're
now. Yeah.
prioritizing tonight. They have the information.
they're just prioritizing, but it does affect our impact fees. That's why they needed to be on it for the school. That's why it was imperative that you came.
So Mr. Totten
So
is
you're
over at
asking
that
about a
meeting
week
right
ahead of time.
now.
All right, well, then that
What was your
satisfies me as far as.
Yeah, I had a comment. I hate disagreeing with you and not making a motion like that, because I understand that people want the numbers. We understand that,
I
but
understand frustration. I'm Irish. I have
Oh, I
just
know,
a temper too.
I just want to say, the reason I didn't agree is I do agree we need the numbers. And I do agree it's your department, but it's more important this town starts to heal.
Yeah.
And
I
I did
agree.
not want you leaving. But we have to get this solved. We have to move past this somehow,
Appreciate that.
right? So I don't, maybe I'm out of line, but I'm trying to remember 2 or 3 weeks ago, the two main questions were, when you wanted you to come in, was fiscal year 2022 closed, yes or no?
Yes.
And then what, 2023 may have a deficit? I don't know. But if it does, is there a process in place on how you're going to handle that? Was that the two questions that we had?
That was two, and then
Way
the
back.
third one that's coming in, there's an impending change order, and how is that
Yeah.
gonna be taken care of?
So do you want to ask
If
them
they
that
choose
if
to,
they're
I
here?
mean.
So is
Can't answer the
2022?
pending change order question without Doug here and Dr. Jetty, but we can email over an answer for that for you. With respect to the 2022, yes, it was closed. The documents have been filed with the state, and it is closed even. For 2023, we are working very hard to ensure there will be a zero balance at the end of the year. It's
Not
November.
easy.
We've got 7 months left. People understand the situation that we're in. We're doing our very best. There isn't a budget freeze yet, so despite any comments that people may be hearing, there has not been a budget freeze, but we're obviously being careful with what we're spending at this point.
So you have a process in place, you're trying to.
Absolutely.
And then
Absolutely. And again, we're very lucky, and I'm going to sing his praises again. Mr. Totten is top notch. He is on top of this stuff. He has a process. His reporting to us has changed, and so we feel more empowered and more
Manifest,
knowledgeable.
everything has changed.
So
Doug
there
is
have
doing a great
been,
job.
yeah, there have been some really good changes that have come from this. It's unfortunate that it needed to happen that way, and certainly regret it. But I just want to echo your sentiment about healing and moving forward, because I do think a good part of the town is looking to do that. And so I appreciate you letting us be here and to speak, because again, I think it's in the town's best interest to have us working collaboratively rather than confrontationally.
And to add to that, I think one thing is important, that Kim needs to be informed, our administrator, with the budget now and the numbers and the same idea, so she can inform us and what's going on. You understand what I'm saying, Kim? Whatever they do in the process for the year, how close they can keep it to be zero, the budget deficit, okay, to let us know. Is that possible?
We can certainly find out. I can't see
How do you
why
feel
not.
about that? I can't read you yet. You're new.
I'm sorry, Kim. I'm just saying
I
a
don't-
thought.
It's a
Courtesy.
courtesy. Go, of course,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, so, oh, thank you.
I think that I agree wholeheartedly with Selectman Queen, and it's always in the best interest of the town and the schools to work together. Having sat in your shoes, I fully understand where you're coming from. If there is anything that I can do, whether it's to keep the board informed, whether it's to give information, whether it's to assist superintendent, we're here. Karen and I met with Doug and
There used to be a triannual meeting with,
We used to do it quarterly, so forth, and what it was is, we get all the department heads together. We get school, we get the town, we get the business administrator, the town administrator, and I think the budget committee chair, and we'd get together and just talk about what's going on, because we never wanted to have competing warrant articles.
exactly.
So we'd try to balance it out. COVID hit, and we stopped having those meetings.
Would you be interested in
100%.
reinstating
I
those?
think there were great meetings when we did have them. It helped out a lot,
Yeah.
so forth.
Awesome.
Another concern we have is that we were requested a copy of the contract from the budget committee. Ms. Kleiner put in 2 requests to it.
The what?
What contract?
The contract for the LMS project.
It was sent,
Has not been sent. We had our attorney
He should have been.
call your attorney. We still don't have it thus far. And there's an email that Ms. Kleiner will be sending to our attorney concerning it.
my understanding is that, again, I don't wanna speak out of turn, but that the attorneys have been going back and forth. They had a productive conversation last week, and they tried to connect today. They were not able to do so in advance of today's meeting, but that there should be information
As you see, we had
forthcoming.
legal counsel today, and she
I
said
saw,
they
yeah.
She was like, she was
did not have
fast.
it, and she's said it was supposed to be sent. We referred to another email that Ms. Kleiner has, and she was taken back by it, so she will now go and try to get it.
Oh.
To the point, we were told that you don't need that contract.
Okay, I don't know
So-
anything about that.
So
I was-
we're just trying to help out the budget committee by doing so forth, and we're not getting a 91A, right? Because it's a public document, so we should be able to get it. And, we shouldn't get to the point that we're gonna have to file
No,
a 91A
no,
on each
no,
other to
no,
get a
no,
public
no,
document.
No, and I think that would be a good time for you to reach out. I mean, if
I
I
just
can.
learned about it all tonight.
Okay,
so
perfect.
We didn't have it. I knew
So
that was
maybe
the
some
question was asked,
correspondence
so.
between you and Liz on that, because we
91A
can
contract?
avoid that. No, 91A is the
It's-
right to know.
filing, yeah,
Filing for
sorry,
a right to know,
sorry.
it's a public document, so.
All right.
FOIA request.
Oh, oh my,
Um,
okay. That's-
we can look into that. So I don't
Appreciate
have
that.
a
Yep.
set answer in front of
No,
me,
but I just wanted to let you
yep,
know
I
that we
appreciate
learned
it.
this evening that we
Yeah,
still
that's a
have to
conversation
have
that
it.
we can have.
You asked
and-
what, a week ago?
Yes.
Next time, will you include me in this, CC me in
Yes,
any of this?
I
public
believe
one?
that,
I wasn't even part of the email chain.
Okay,
I believe that, Superintendent Jettie asked a staff member to send it.
Oh.
And then a couple days later, he indicated that he didn't think that it answered the question or was needed to answer the question
we will
that
follow
was
up with
put-
that after
was
this meeting.
asked.
Thank you.
Was this the question about the warrant article?
Yes,
Okay. So what the number that the town approved versus the number of the contract? But the number on the warrant article was for the municipal lease,
correct,
not for the contract.
correct.
Okay, but you still want a copy of the contract. Do I have that right?
Yes.
That's
how I
And,
read it.
and to be
Yes.
clear, the contract was requested, from the town to the budget committee, so.
The budget
I-
committee
I-
asked
I
us to
need
please go
to
get it for
answer.
them.
That's what
Yeah.
I wanna hear.
So-
That's why
Maybe.
Ms. Kleiner was involved, because the budget
Correct.
committee came to us.
Does that normally happen? The budget committee goes to the select
So the
board to
budget
request
committee,
a document?
so budget committee sits underneath both of them.
Yeah.
So they can go either path they want.
Okay.
When they were looking at something for the school, they didn't think it was appropriate to go to the school's attorney, right? To go to the town's attorney and ask for it. So that was the path they took.
I guess I'm not sure why it needed to go to either attorney. I'm curious in terms of if it's a request for the contract, why
They,
wouldn't that
they
request?
asked the town legal counsel to review the contract.
Okay,
Okay, we can do
we can look into that, yep.
Just call the clerk of the works, you don't have one. Good luck.
clicker?
Clerk of the works.
Clerk of the works, oh, sorry.
We've talked about that term a lot of times.
Very important to have in
Yes.
construction.
Very
I
important.
feel so much better now, thank you all. We can continue, thank you. This was a rough week for us, our buddy.
Liz's
have
face has
to- I
gotten a
know,
little
but you
less
have
red.
to
I know,
know.
I have
Okay.
high blood pressure.
And we've never treated anybody in front of this board unprofessionally.
Thank you. I will come back
You've
whenever you
watched-
ask me now.
You've watched many meetings.
I
and
have.
We never have.
Okay then, anything else?
Are there any other questions that we can take back?
I have none at this
I'm
time.
done.
Just the change order follow-up, when they get it.
Yes,
That
But they're
and-
still waiting for
And
information.
please get us a copy of the contract so we can
Contract.
take care of it.
Change orders are very important.
No, I understand, but that's Dr. Jettie and
That's construction
Mr.
method
Totten's.
101.
Yep, absolutely. And they're on top of that stuff. They meet weekly to go over those change orders. That is something that regularly happens.
Thank you.
Any other
thank
questions?
you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Please
so much.
reach
Have a
out
good evening.
anytime, and you can call me Liz.
I do in
Madam,
person- in a
Mr.
personal-
Chair.
In a personal setting, I do.
Okay,
In a business setting, I don't.
Have a good night.
thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Next up, we have the appointments of the Deputy Health Officer and one for the Lower Merrimack Valley River Advisory Committee. Ms. Kleiner.
So, good evening. So this question came to my office, and we really feel it was just an oversight. So in December of 2021, Mr. Blackwell was appointed and confirmed as the health officer for the town of Litchfield.
Deputy health officer. Oh, no, Blackwell, okay, sorry.
Blackwell.
Yep.
And at the time, you had Mr. Doobie, and you had Mr. Kelly, who were deputies. Both of their terms have expired. So there's been some conversation. Mr. Kelly is interested in continuing. He has submitted his paperwork, which is, and he has a background check on file, so that's all set. So we would like the board to consider appointing Mr. Kelly once again as deputy health officer for the town of Litchfield.
Yep, and Mr. Blackwell's out, you got the deputy to cover it, makes sense. I make a motion, we approve it.
We have a motion by Mr. Lynch,
Second?
second by Mr. LaSalle's. All those in favor, Mr. Leary.
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's.
Aye.
Mr. Lynch.
Aye?
Ms. Queenan.
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries 5-0-0. And now we have the Lower Merrimack Valley River Advisory Committee.
So as you know, the board received a letter from the state asking for volunteers to represent the town of Litchfield on the Lower Merrimack Valley River Advisory Board. We reached out to the Conservation Commission, the Recreation Commission. I think we discussed it at CIP, and two members from the town have come forward. Diane Plansky, representing the Conservation Committee, and Jeff Town, representing the Recreation Committee. So if acceptable with the board, we'd like to put forward their nomination. There is a process that continues. They fill out the form, that goes to the state, and the state is the one that actually confirms them.
And that will give us, if they're confirmed, they'll give us 3 or 4.
It'll give us three,
Three.
because Mr. Croto is
Is already on.
currently on. So we
So we'll
may
have-
have one more,
Right.
if one more steps forward. There was talk of someone else being interested, but that hasn't come to my office yet.
So that's good. So that'll give us planning, conservation, and recreation all covering it.
It's a good group.
Now, this Lower Merrimack Valley River Advisory Committee, what realm or what are they a part of?
Great question. So the committee actually sits and, together with Hudson, Nashua, Merrimack,
Lower.
they review, planning or development plans that are brought forth and make recommendations to the state on what the impact would be to the riverbed.
So are they part of the planning board?
Michael Croto, who's the chairman of the planning board, is also a member of this committee.
Yes.
So he communicates back and forth with them. And
Okay.
attends the meetings, keeps them updated.
Yeah.
Or brings their feedback.
So pretty much if anyone wants to build somewhere near the river, the plans have to go in front of this committee for their input also.
So this is an official committee under the auspices of the state,
The state DES, yes.
or the Department of Environmental Services?
Correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Do we have a motion to accept Ms. Plansky and Mr. Town?
So move.
Motion by Mr. LaSalle's,
Second?
second by Ms. Queenan. All those in favor, Mr. Leary.
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's.
Aye.
Mr. Lynch. Ms. Queenan.
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries 5-0-0. Next, we have Recreation Committee impact fees for pickleball courts. Mr. Burns and Ms. Brennan, welcome.
Did you wanna do public input? We haven't done public input yet.
I will do it after this.
Yeah, there's so much public here.
Everyone sitting here is tied in with pickleball, and
Oh, is it?
then we just have somebody who enjoys being with us.
The only sport that knows you can go slower.
Do you play pickleball?
I haven't. No.
I have.
Looks like fun.
It is fun.
It's an age-related type game.
Not really, you're about to find out.
We thought it was, but
I just
Thought it
kidding.
was, but
that's me, that's my mugshot.
Oh, look at that one.
Thank you for having us this evening. I'm Chris Burns,
I'm Judy Brennan.
both members of the Recreation Commission, and we've come to discuss the use of impact fees for construction of pickleball courts at Sawmill Brook Park. This started back in April. The Litchfield Pickleball Association met with us to discuss repairing the tennis courts. Currently, they have lines on one of the courts for their use. And as you can see in these pictures, the courts are in kind of rough shape there. So we went and got some estimates to repair and repaint the tennis courts at Sawmill. Those numbers came in around $30,000. Obviously, that's a lot higher than we have in our budget. So we decided to explore the use of available impact fees to build new courts, since impact fees can't be used for repair of existing structures. And the impact fees would be no cost to the taxpayer. In case you don't know what pickleball is, it's been around for almost 55 years. Started in Washington State. It is a professional sport. It's covered by the USA Pickleball Association. And there's 4.8 million participants in the U.S., 3.5 million of those being considered casual players. The age of the average player is around 38 years old, and that's dropping every year. And it's becoming more and more popular. People like Tom Brady and LeBron James, Drew Brees, they're becoming owners of professional teams.
So, pickleball in Litchfield, the Litchfield Pickleball Association, which falls under our Recreation Commission, was formed in 2011, so a little over 10 years ago. Started with 39 members. We now have 137 members. They play inside Talent Hall in the winter. They use our tennis courts, which are, or were lined for pickleball also, so you have multiple lines on there, but they're faded. And as you saw, the court's cracking, grass is coming up there. They currently have to bring their own nets every time and set them up every time they come to play. They bring their own gear, just like anybody playing another sport in town would bring their own, but then they have to break down, take those nets down, take them with them, or store them somewhere when they do play. We don't have any permanent pickleball courts. We just have the basketball court that they kind of line with tape inside Talent Hall. And then what's on the tennis courts, and our tennis courts get far more use from pickleball players than from tennis. So, pickleball court is 20 feet by 44 feet. You can fit 4 pickleball courts in one tennis court. They can be set up differently. Right now, the way they're set up with the tennis courts is the tennis net is kind of to their back, and they're kind of back into it, and then the court extends beyond what the tennis court would be over towards by the fence. So it's a little bit squishy, but with the dimensions, you can essentially fit 4 pickleball courts into a tennis court. And then you have what's called your overrun, is your space between courts that they share, and then between the back of the court and where your net would be. So your average court with its overruns would be 30 or 32 feet by 64 feet. So you have some extra room on the sides and room for fencing.
In looking at a location for the project, we were looking at Sawmill Brook Park, and they have 2 parcels of land there. Parcel A is 35 acres, and it consists of the parking area. The fields themselves stretches back to the recycling center and the woods beyond that. And then there's a smaller portion, parcel B is 2 acres, and it's comprised of the driveway and the tennis courts up front. When we were looking at options on locations for this within those areas, we had no idea of the cost yet, so we really took every consideration here, from 4 courts to 8 courts. So these are the 4 court options, all different locations. And then we put together a layout for 8 courts, which is number 7 in the blue there, stretching along the driveway, and 6 courts, which is option 8, the green layout there, that stretches parallel to the parking lot.
So as a recreation commission, we decided having the 6 courts in this setup would be the best fit for the area. It's directly across from the tennis courts. It runs parallel with the tennis courts. There's parking right there in front of them. It leaves a fair amount of space behind it if we wanted to ever do playground or other recreational activities in that area. So we could get 6 courts in, taking up a minimal amount of space and still leaving land for any other development or activities that we would want to do, and it's ideal for parking. This is what our vision is. This one is in Cape Cod. They have more courts, obviously, than we would have. This vision, you can see the space in between. They have the soft netting in between the courts also, if you look at that, or the soft fencing. So if your ball gets hit out of bounds, you're not chasing it all the way down to someone else's court. The other thing is that the way this is set up, instead of being set up for on a tennis court, when you're entering, you're not crossing anybody else's game or court. It makes it a lot easier. Just go in and out, and it mirrors the tennis court. So this made the most sense to us to have it run in a pad of probably 170 to 180 feet by 64.
We have gotten some cost estimates already. This company, DG Contracting, I believe they're out of Amesbury, Massachusetts. They gave us a quote for the 6 courts, which would be approximately 170 feet by the 64 feet. That is assuming that the site and pad work are done by others. We have had a very generous resident in town donate that portion of it, and he's looking to get started on it ASAP. We've also had another resident that's offered to do the survey work, which is hopefully later on this week.
If we get your approval, Thursday.
So their proposal is for a pre-finished tile court, which would be over the concrete or asphalt pad that gets laid down. It's a perforated interlocking tile that's polypropylene, and that price includes the in-ground posts and removable nets. I'm doing a little bit of research on this. Supposedly it provides exceptional protection against skin abrasions, head injuries, and joint strain over the hard concrete or asphalt surface. Superior traction in wet and dry conditions. Their price does include freight costs, and there are a number of colors to choose from. It's got a 10-year anti-fade warranty on the color and a 15-year limited warranty on the product itself. It is made in the U.S. They also gave us an optional quote for the fencing, which would be a 10-foot tall fence with one gate, and we can talk to them about that a little bit more, but that'd be another $28,000. We did get another estimate from New England Sports Floors, 6-court layout as well. Same deal with the site and pad work being by others. This is the lower end being where they just paint over the finished pad and line it. Currently, their price does not include any nets or fencing, although they can do that. They just didn't have time to get that over to me. The main differences, I would think, is that, if it gets wet after a rain and it gets puddled, it's probably a little bit harder to play on this than it is the tiles. And as far as a warranty go, it's really only as good as the pad and the paint from peeling.
So our options for funding pickleball courts, looking at surveying, site work, pad work, 6 courts, fencing, could be upwards of $120,000 at the high end, and then it could be significantly lower, but we don't have all those numbers in yet. So what we plan to do if we get the approval is to start collaborating with the Litchfield Pickleball Association, get in our other estimates, and see what fits Litchfield best. And we need that input from the people who do play often. so that's why we don't have more exact numbers. Our funding options, we're asking for impact fees. Our impact fees expire next year. We do not have any other major projects on the table right now, and considering we started working with this in April, and it's taken to this point to gather our information, and even be able to present it to you, we're thinking that there's not really anything else that's going to come up, or nothing else that's been in the talks of using that money. We could use ARPA funds. We could ask for a warrant article, which we do not want to do. We have talked with beautification to help with like the mulch and just kind of neatening up the area after the pads in, and for some benches. And when we had started the process, we talked with the Litchfield Pickleball Association about maybe being able to help with providing their accessories, whether it's ball baskets or signage or kind of those extra things that we won't have in the budget. So we're here tonight asking for your support.
Or not to exceed the 122.
And the biggest caveat is to get it going as soon as possible, to get the site work done before the end
The
of
person who's willing to put in that pad for us wants to do it as soon as possible. He's got some downtime. So if this were to pass tonight, we have a tentative meeting set up with the surveyor for Thursday morning to take a look at that, and be able to lay it out for us. We don't anticipate any issues. There's a little bit of a drainage ditch on one side that still isn't gonna impact the size of the court.
It won't affect it.
Then you have what, the planning board?
It'll be good.
You have to go to the planning board still?
We were going to, our thought was go planning board, then you guys, but we're on such a tight constraint now to get that pad done for free that your meeting came up first.
Yep.
So we
So
did,
next week?
we would go to the planning board, so that, just to make them aware.
I've been in contact with the planning board and emailing back and forth with Joan, and as of right now, it doesn't seem like we're needed to present there. I've sent her pictures and layouts and all the measurements and everything that we're looking for. I haven't heard that they want us to come tomorrow night. I guess they got a pretty busy agenda as it is, but, yeah, so.
Come on down.
Or we could proceed to go when we
watching.
have more information,
Yep.
or if they have questions for us. So if you have questions, hopefully we could answer them.
So your desire is for not to exceed 122,000
Correct,
to be taken from impact fees?
correct.
I'll move that.
We have a motion by Mr. LaSalle's,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Lynch. Any further discussion?
I just have a question. Because I'm looking at, we're working on the SIP plan. It was on the SIP plan. So it's gonna come off of it
If
if
we
we
got
do the
impact-
impact fees.
Come on.
All right, we
That's a
like
good
these
thing.
coming off. I just wanna make sure, 'cause the numbers
Accomplished.
sounded too familiar.
Couple on rec that's dropped off.
Okay.
Plus the
Yeah,
site there is
it's,
not that bad on that backside there.
Yeah, it's really, it's a perfect spot for
It
it.
is. It's a clean spot.
Yep.
And we've had a lot of, we've had a lot of support for this with the LPA and just residents in general. A lot of people have been in favor for that.
Yeah,
See,
people
tennis
seem
is
excited
harder.
about it.
Pickleball's is easier. You ain't gotta run as much.
You don't, it's true. That's what I love about it. It's a quarter of the size of the tennis court. You're not
Exactly.
dying chasing the ball.
You know, when you get older, I'm not going that far.
No, and if you play doubles,
Yeah.
it's just a lot easier than tennis.
All right, we have a motion.
It also, will give us some potential for bringing in some income too with, possible tournaments.
You got it.
And the high school could probably use it if they get a team as well.
High schools are.
I know-
There's also discussion, if you can, try to get a playground in that area too, I believe.
Yep, but that, we have room
Yeah,
for that
further on,
behind
yeah,
it,
yeah.
yep.
Yes, pickleball has been a big thing since I came to town here working, and in the wintertime, it's busy as heck up there, okay? 'Cause
Yeah.
that's the only place they really got. But when you get into spring and summer and fall, they like to get out, okay? You may have some portable bathroom theories you have to deal with.
I think it's really good that
is.
pickleball has taken off.
I agree.
And I think it's good that the town shows some support for recreational activities that's not targeted toward kids.
Kids.
And
think it's
in this case, pickleball, it's my impression that most pickleball players are more senior.
You got my color
And
here.
it's good, you know, to have something for them.
Well, as a commission, we're committed to trying to provide more activities for all ages and all abilities, and not just
Yep.
youth, so that falls into our goals there also.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, Mr. Leary,
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's,
Aye.
Mr. Lynch,
Aye.
Ms. Queenan.
Aye.
I'm also an aye. Motion carries
Thank
500.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for all the hard work.
I hope you made your Monday night feel better.
Hope we made your Monday night feel better.
Oh, it's been a little hairy.
Thank you so much.
You're most welcome.
You.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Nice to see you.
I go home.
No, not at all. I'd go with you if I could.
We cut the agenda down.
Thanks, Judy. Be well.
Now, were the other folks that were here, were they?
They were pickleball people. Yeah.
Oh,
Great.
Good night, Chris. Good night, Andrew.
Still don't know what that game is.
What's that?
Still don't know anything about that game.
I don't either.
I've seen it played a lot.
All right, next we have the resignation of Francis X. Freitzel III, Fire Chief.
I make a motion, we accept it.
We have a motion by Mr. Lynch,
I'll second.
second by Mr. LaSalle's. Do we have discussion?
Apparently, he's got a good job offer and will go somewhere else.
Yeah.
From what I heard.
That's right here
So I
too.
wish him the best.
Yeah.
And thank him for his service to the town.
I thank him for all the years, all the hard work he has done for us. His job as emergency management director, getting us through COVID, did a fantastic job doing that, and it's really been enjoy working with the chief. And I personally hate to see the chief go.
Oh, thank you.
All those in favor, Mr. Leary,
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's,
Aye.
Mr. Lynch,
Aye.
Ms. Queenan.
aye.
I am reluctantly an aye also, 500. Next, we have request from NHMA files prior to January 2015. Ms. Kleiner.
We received this communication from the New Hampshire Municipal Association. It seems space is limited everywhere. So they are going to be asking every community to either alert them, either through email or through written correspondence, whether or not we would be interested in having any legal correspondence between the NHMA and the town prior to January 1, 2015 sent back to us, or whether they are okay to destroy it.
Do
So
we
if
have a
they
copy of
don't
those?
hear from us, they will destroy it.
Do we have a copy of all that correspondence ourselves to keep?
Well, so I think 2015 is probably prior to the drive. Is that fair to say, Karen? The Google Drives?
Oh,
So-
no, we got Google in 2011?
11, so 4 years.
Do we have a legality to keep the documents?
That's, I want to be careful here because I think it depends upon what the legal
is.
issue was.
Correct, so that's what I'm thinking, if we destroy them, and if we ever need them, we have an issue.
Right.
Now, then the other thing, is there a way we can get the documents so we don't have to dry storage them? Can we have them scanned in, so we at least can keep them?
Do they still do microfiche?
I hope not, no.
I think it takes a blessed memory if they just scan it all in.
Sorry, Rich.
Then it just sits in the cloud somewhere in case we ever have to get to it.
So.
From what I understand.
Take it from
paper.
from your derisive attitude towards my question that I am showing my age here with.
But I can say that probably every person in this room has used it before.
Yes, I have used it very often.
And I know I have also, so.
I don't think, from what I understand, these are paper files. And that's part of the reason why they would like to dispose of them. And they did indicate we could either pick them up or they would arrange to have them shipped to us. I think to be safe, we're best to take them. We don't know how many there may be, maybe 1 box, maybe 10 boxes, I mean, and at least look through them to see if it is an issue that requires, for the records to be kept. And, we can scan them, we have the ability to do so, and place them on the drive. We can alert
I guess
the
we figure out
board.
how to scan them when we see the quantity, right?
We don't have any idea the quantity,
Yeah, it could be
pounds
3.
or tons or,
When
Can
we
you find that
switched to
out?
Mitchell Group, we got all H. Hodes's boxes.
Okay. I'm sure it was.
They may be down now, Kevin, I don't know if they're still in what I call my vaults.
The vault down the other end. Okay,
Down, the cable,
yeah,
yeah.
there may be some in there.
I thought we got like 10, or there was a lot of boxes.
Yes, there was at one time.
Lot of boxes.
But this is correspondence directly between the town and the New Hampshire Municipal Association.
And a lot of it's a quick little question about
legal.
this, question
So,
about that.
Right, you may have used your own legal,
Most of those you
Team
won't use much of, okay, because we all go to a legal first.
right,
And the association, the municipal association, is a guideline, okay?
I think there's a lot of lower questions we go to NHMA on.
Yeah, it's free, yeah.
It's free, because we already pay into it, right? It's like quick.
Yeah.
so these would include things where today you would just fire off an email and get an email back.
Yeah, and
Correct.
some of these may
Right.
be emails.
and they may, yeah.
Yep.
So I think we at least should get them back, do our due diligence, go through them, see what they are, and if we need to keep it, scan it in so we have, a copy
Need
of it.
another building.
Basement.
Just kidding.
Old fire
We
station.
got the firehouse. Okay, let's do it. Let's get them, whatever they got, get them, we'll go through them. Okay, if that's the best thing to do, and not keep them all if we don't have to, then we'll be all set.
Everybody in agreement? Okay. Seeing that it is 7:40, we'll open it up to public input. Do we have any members of the public who would like to provide input this evening?
Now they all left.
Since there's nobody in here, we will close public input. We'll move on to the MS4 annual report submission. Ms. Kleiner?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Since the discussion earlier in the evening could have sparked some attendance online, can we check to see if there is anybody online who would?
Well, I don't think we have WebEx going this evening,
Oh,
so.
okay,
Yeah, and if it's on YouTube, there's no way to comment on YouTube,
okay.
so.
All
But
right.
we'll welcome anybody, next meeting to come and chat with us or beforehand. We love when the public comes and sits with us.
We look forward to it.
Okay, MS4.
I am very happy to report that the MS4 Year 4 annual report has been filed with the EPA and right on time. Thank you very much to Mr. Brown, who we
Your
have.
MS4. The MS4.
So, Mr. Brown and I and the New Hampshire DES combined forces, and it is submitted and accepted by the EPA. and
Kevin, take the pat on the back.
Posted to the
Take the pat.
website.
You came here to get a pat in the back, now go home.
Great work, both of you. Thank you very much for getting that completed. It's greatly appreciated.
You're right on time to get your pat.
All right, next we have purchase order approval for $18,474.03 to Bulldog Fire Apparatus. Ms. Kleiner?
So the fire department, did get this, invoice, or the quote at least. I don't believe the engine has been, completed. They are choosing to take it out of their vehicles, vehicle repairs and maintenance within their budget. It's for $18,474, and it's for the repairs to engine
4,
4.
yep.
Beautiful.
Okay. Saw that that was in the consent folder. I don't think we need a motion for that.
Coming out of the operating budget,
It is.
don't have to worry about it.
All right, next we have budget update. Ms.
Yeah,
Kleiner
budget.
and Ms. White.
You got 5 minutes.
I think the best news is we have a tax rate.
Yeah.
So, it's 1903. The town clerk did indicate just prior to this meeting that she had reviewed a draft of the bills, and they will be mailed tomorrow. So the tax bills will go out tomorrow,
And what's the bottom line as far as the tax rate,
1903.
which is compared to last year?
1844.
18 what?
1844 was last year's.
Last year.
Yeah,
That's
So
56.
about
and-
59 cents higher?
yeah.
We voted for it.
So I think you'll see that, if you've been following along, we did during the tax setting process, receive some updates and revenues for like meals and rooms, which came in significantly higher for 2022. Highway block grant came in higher. So as a result, Karen and I discussed it and felt confident in moving up the 2023 anticipated revenue for those line items. Then we received the workman's compensation 2023 rate, which was a reduction from 86,473 to 73,850. So that's a savings of 12,623. To make a long story short, as the budget now, as it's been adjusted by the budget committee, is now 17,220 below the tax cap.
Thank
I
you.
will say that there are some issues that both the police department and the fire department have brought, and I'll put those together for you, concerns from some of those cuts.
Definitely. And I know the Recreation Commission's very concerned about the cuts also to them, to the point they have no money for any maintenance if anything happens.
I don't know, Karen, did I miss anything yet?
I mean, I just have the one thing that, where we're looking to put some money back into some of these departments is to use the fire department impact fees, as we did this year, to pay down. We're pulling it out of the budget for next year, which just kicks it down the road. But with the farm, and we should be collecting more impact fees, I would think that we could do that again next year as well. That maybe you'd wanna, discuss that, vote on it, to put maybe 25 or 30 out of fire impact fees to pay down that bond
Yeah.
next year and get it out of the budget.
That
Give
will help
yourself
out.
a little more money there, but
Okay.
that's my thought.
Thank you. Draft warrant articles to date. Ms. Kleiner.
So I don't think that, unless the board chooses, we were ready to discuss these in detail, but we wanted to put them out to you so that you could take a look at them. Many of them will look familiar, as they're commonly done year after year. I have not met with, and please forgive me if I'm wrong, but I believe I need to meet with the health officer and then our citizens representative for the health agency recommendations. I plan to do that in the next week or so and put that out, so we don't have that information. But this is sort of a rough draft. I do know that we expect something perhaps from the library so that's not included in here. And in addition, you know, we've been looking at, some suggestions from other towns, that have a tax cap and how they calculate that. Just so that it's something that you could look at and
I'd love to go back
consider.
and look at the calculation, because I always thought it was supposed to be calculated Proposition 2.5 in Mass. Anything that was voted in isn't part of it,
Right.
so.
So you'd have to read
Is-
the RSA on it. It's your, I think it's, I should have it in front of me, but something about when you go to vote and you post your MS7, it can only be, is it your MS7? $175,000 over last year's voted appropriation. So, you know, with that, if we got a warrant article passed that raised and appropriated, you get to take, you know, that money into it. Some of it's a revenue offset, you're taking it in as a gross appropriation, but you're also using it as a revenue. But it can only be what you voted and appropriated. So where we, you know, would do 6 months for an employee, you can only take 6 months into
Correct.
that next year. That's all you voted for and appropriated. You can't take what you estimated, you know, might be. So I think just it got
So almost that half year that we always do is hurting us from that standpoint.
yes. So you may wanna go back to April.
But if you go back and look at like when we did the telecommunication tower and all that, I mean, you would think that that would be taken out because it was voter approved. It would only be what is over, which was not approved by the
Well,
voter.
that gets into your budget the next year, so so it seems to be like your first year is where you kinda hit the loophole, cause you only did it for 6 months, you only. But once it's in there the next year, it's in there.
It's in there, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's that
Yeah.
first year that you're really paying the price
It's
on
kinda
it.
that first year that you're paying the price on it, yes, yeah. You know, like the union contract, if it passes, and you have a 3 or 4 year contract,
Yeah.
it's only what you voted and appropriated that year, even though. So with that said, you get to take all that into default, so default is usually higher.
Correct.
Because you can take that in, you just can't take that into the tax cap,
So that's one of the warrant articles that we need to address.
yeah.
I think some of the confusion too is that when the budget committee is looking at the budget, right? Regardless of what warrant articles passed before, they can only go $175,000
They're
So
Or
any
more.
warrant articles that go over the tax cap, they're gonna have to vote against, which
Right.
happens to us many times.
But to the taxpayer, it doesn't seem that way, because then what happens is more people you tend to put things that are absolutely needed into warrant articles because they've been cut from the budget. And when you get into a situation with what we've seen like now, where so many of your fixed costs are being hit by inflation, I mean, you can't help the price of gas, you can't,
Yeah.
and you still have to
Electricity
have
and
Kevin's
Actual
trucks
services,
going,
health insurance,
right.
I mean, all those things you really can't do anything about, utilities, road salt.
You
can't
get,
do anything about it.
yeah, you get into a dangerous situation,
And I
which
think if
is
you just looked at those this year, that put us over the tax cap before anything else.
yeah.
Common sense.
So, I mean, we have to address it somehow. And speaking to the selectmen that put it in at the time it happened, it was never to always be at a set point. It was supposed to be looked at, raised, and moved as it went on.
You did talk to him?
Yeah, talked to a couple of them.
Which I think is why the other communities in New Hampshire that have tax caps use that average of the CPIU
Okay.
to calculate it, because it does adjust for inflationary, beyond your control.
So if we adjusted the tax cap, what would we choose, like 3% or something?
I think we can give you a number of options, but I think, utilizing something like the CPIU, some economic figure that is adjusted, it's normally wide accepted, it's based on the economic climate
Okay.
of the time versus having just a 3% figure or a 4% figure, and maybe years from now, that's too high. You know, there's been a number of years in the past that the CPIU was 1.2%,
Yep.
because that's all that was needed.
But this year, it's more like 8, right?
So I looked at the figure that the 3-year average that they've been using in the other two towns, and it was 4.6%. Was the
Okay.
3-year average. So
Inflation costs and everything else associated with all that.
But you say 3-year average, but I think that's low when inflation is going up higher. Like right now, the inflation rate, depending on what you look at, is somewhere in the neighborhood of 8%. Where if you take a 3-year average and you've had abnormally low before, then that's gonna be a low figure. And then on the other end of the curve, it comes in abnormally high. So I would think we would choose the current rate of inflation, and I'm saying whatever the CPI is, I don't know what the best one would be, but it would seem that that would be more reflective of the actual costs that we have. But that discussion can be had at some other point, but.
That's when we talk about the warrant article. How we wanna handle that, that's how I feel. Get the rating in there.
Yeah, we have to do something.
We definitely do.
I have to do something. Okay, next.
Next, we have TA report. Ms. Kleiner.
So
Right here.
some of this I will not go through because we just discussed it during budget, so that's good.
You did the whole thing?
I think the Clean Water State Revolving Fund grant, you know that there's going
Gotta
to
use the
be an
button.
RFQ that we are currently working on, that will need to be, released, for that. So we'll bring that to you when it is needed. We also have, an item from Jason Brennan, from Conservation Committee, on some trees that were discussed before, for the Albuquerque. It was agreed upon, that they would replace 12 trees. Unfortunately, the season got a little far, and they do not feel that they can get it done this year. Jason and National Grid actually went out and marked where the trees will be. But just to give you an update on that, they're planning on doing it in the spring. And you'll see 4 trees at Moores Falls and 8 trees around, down Albuquerque, just across from Hidden Creek. Conservation Committee Chair Jason Brennan and I met with Eversource officials, down on the Charles Bancroft Highway, just by Cummings. And what the purpose was to discuss where they have placed the dance floor for their power line work. They will be taking that dance floor, that's the railroad ties that they lay down. They're gonna be taking that up over the next few weeks. It's very bare, that vegetation had to be completely removed. The thought was, with winter coming upon us, let winter, take its course, and in the springtime, we'll go out there, with the Conservation Committee and look at it again and see what needs to be done, vegetation-wise. Yesterday, in the news, I'm not sure if anyone picked up on it, but there was an article, about small towns and the welfare New Hampshire Local Welfare Association passing a policy, and I will just say it's passed amongst the association, that if there's a member of a town that is leaving and relocating for housing needs, that the town would cover the first 30 days. Now, some of this is to address communities, our larger cities, that have been faced with people moving into those areas for temporary housing. Maybe not finding temporary housing. But the article stated that that part of the association's concern was to take the pressure off the larger cities. Unfortunately, that places the pressure on the smaller towns, who have a much smaller budget for their local needs. I was contacted about joining the association. There are some small towns that have voiced concerns, but I still have to stress, if you read it, it's a policy. It is not a state law. And so I think there'll be much more conversation. We do need to stress, though, that there's going to be some residents, and in probably every community across the state, that are gonna have some needs with utilities, right? They're through the roof. And so we've been talking about that. I've been talking with some of the communities around us about options. Southern New Hampshire Services has some money that has been passed down from the state that people can apply for. So we're collecting these resources so that if anyone needs to come forth to us, we can help them along with the application process, and help them with their needs. But that was at least legislation that was adopted by the state of New Hampshire, and it's going through the local community action agencies and here.
That's for fuel, heating fuel, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I understand that they've been totally inundated
I do
by
too.
requests.
Due to the rise in oil prices, bottom line.
Wait till February hits.
Yeah, I think that is the concern, and Southern New Hampshire Services does great work. I think they're trying to help everyone they possibly can. They are using the 211 system to at least get information out there, but yeah, there's a large concern.
Yeah, I think that, we're gonna have needs, even in Litchfield, that is, not only in the area of heating fuel, but
Electricity.
food, electricity. There's gonna be several different things that people are gonna get hit by. So I don't know what we can do to prepare any more than we already have, but, it's gonna be tough this winter.
It certainly will.
Mother Nature.
And last but not least, so going to that point, in our lobby out here, the food pantry is collecting for the 68 hours of hunger, so people can bring their canned goods. And Morgan Wagner, Litchfield Senior, is collecting for Nora's knapsacks. So toiletries, mittens, hats, scarves, toothbrushes, all for the homeless or people in transition. So there's a box in the lobby for that as well.
Beautiful.
One thing in the past that we have worked with the schools, particularly the elementary school, to see if there's needs. sometimes are privy to information of a personal nature that people don't feel comfortable about approaching, a government entity, but because they're on the reduced meals list or something, they can identify some needs. So, I know in the past, Mrs. Jewett was very active in that on a personal nature. So if there's anything that we can do to work with the schools in that regard, that we should attempt to do that.
Wasn't it the women's club that always kind of had the in? That would come back, they worked right with GMS, and they always kind of knew who needed what,
Yep.
and would work through them in order to do it. Are they still together?
I'm not sure.
I'm not
I
sure, 'cause I
think so,
remember we put them as part of the
Yeah.
human services to help them out also.
Lori Martin
donations
was a
that they were
contact
doing.
with that, but I'm not positive.
Would you like us to try to reach out?
That would be
and-
great if you could, because they've been a great asset in the past. And also, when we do the Christmas tree lighting, the rec commission will have a table out for canned goods and also for 68 hours of hungers. Rec has made it a standpoint, whenever they do something now, they're always gonna
Yeah.
have a table set out to help the food pantry and help with the 68 hours of hunger.
What does the 68 mean? I understand.
It's for kids that backpacks don't have enough meals and are under-resourced, so when they leave on a Friday,
Yeah.
a backpack with everything they'll need for the weekend goes home with them.
Gotcha. I was thinking 48 hours. Okay,
Yeah,
so
it
another
carries them
day.
through until they get back to
Gotcha.
school on
Okay.
Monday morning.
Thank you.
One of the things, and this is sort of in the same regard, I approached Charlie McQuestion on election day to see if they had any, typically at the end of the harvest season, they have a lot of squash and that sort of thing that's kind of left over. And we have now with the old firehouse, and I understand the temperature in there is like 50 degrees or 45 degrees or something. We could very easily move a pallet of squash in there and provide that to as needed to the food pantry. But when I approached him on election day, they got wiped out. They totally sold everything that they had.
Oh, wow.
And so maybe it was a combination of the weather and the market and so forth. But maybe we could approach like Wilson's or McQuestion, whatever, in the future to kind of keep that in mind, because bulk, a pallet of squash or something, and we could store it and keep it. I mean, we could literally keep it for a long time if we had that in the old firehouse. And who knows, we might have a situation where people would be happy to get a squash,
Act like a root cellar.
Yeah. I don't know anybody now. Do you know anybody at Wilson's?
I do.
No, not really. Not really, since they've closed down.
I know the guy in charge, I'll call him.
Oh, Keith?
Well, it'd be for next year, so.
I understand, we'll talk to him.
Yeah. I mean, if they had anything,
Most cases it's shipped out,
yeah,
okay?
yeah.
And this year, Charlie did have a bad year with squash and stuff like that, he ain't got no inventory like he used to have,
Yeah, he said on a typical year, he does,
Yep.
but this year he doesn't.
Nope.
We all good? Okay, Ms. Queenie.
All right, Capital Improvement Plan Committee. We last met on November 7th. The library could not come in for a final presentation. They had $50,000 put aside for ARPA money for small projects, carpet, kids' room kind of thing. So we left it on the plan. The school did present. The next meetings were for tonight, so the SIP committee is meeting over at the fire station right now. So you and I are not there. So their goal tonight is to prioritize the list and go to the planning board tomorrow and present it to the planning board, but I'm not sure how that's going to go. Because really you need, after the planning board looks at it, we need to have a public hearing, and you have to post that, 10 days, I think, with the weekends, right, involved. And then come to the Board of Selectmen. So I'm hoping they're doing good work over there. But I anticipate probably one more meeting. But I could be wrong, but we'll see how that goes. All right, so that's the plan. The plan was the 14th today. They were supposed to finalize everything, prioritize. Tomorrow was the planning board. November 28th was supposed to be presenting to us here at the select board. And November 29th, the public hearing was supposed to go. So we'll see where we go with that. The planning board meets tomorrow night, the 15th, at the town hall. One thing I wanted to thank you for, and Jay Mankara, was we applied for 2 grants for the TTAC committee, and we have the intersection approved so far, for the first approval round. The Pinecrest sidewalk did not make it in, but then there was another grant identified where we just took the data and just applied for this new grant. So that went through on November 3rd, I believe, and that's called a CMAQ grant for congestion mitigation and air quality, and because it has to do with biking or pedestrian, it may go to the top of the list. So we'll wait to hear from that. The next meeting for Nashua Regional Planning Commission will be Wednesday, December 21st at 330 Temple Street in Nashua. That quarterly meeting being on December 21st is usually light. Usually don't get a full board, obviously. The only other one thing I'll bring up is the Heritage Commission. I want to talk to you, I'll talk to you right now about that. There's no problem going on, but I do remember when it went in 2018, we were working with Jen Sins at the time from NRPC. Jen Sins was Jay Mankara's predecessor, we were working with her. And, you know how things get crazy around warrant articles. So the way that whole process works with the demolition permit, I read the ordinance and I looked at the flow chart that goes with it online. So if you go to the town website and go to the Department Heritage Commission, you're going to see 2 links. One shows you the flow chart of how that demolition process works, and then you actually have the link to the zoning ordinance. For the demolition process to start, it has to be a building that's greater, I think less than or equal to 1960, and greater than 500 feet. But we hard-coded 1960. So I think it should not be hard-coded. It should be anything greater than 60 years old. So as time goes forward, we're not always going back to 1960. So
1960, that's
so it's a cleanup issue. Hopefully it'll make it through this time. So yeah, so maybe look at the zoning ordinance. We'll talk about that on the planning board. But
makes sense.
I think the Heritage Commission, you have probably another meeting this month that I'll pass that to you.
Okay.
And I did see Carl Frank at the polls. I said, might be reaching out to you. So he's aware of that. Okay. I mean, you guys discuss if you want to do it. Right now it's hard coded. Another year wouldn't hurt it. But if you want it to go forward, we'll let you guys discuss that. I think that's all I have. Let me just check the back page. Hold on. We are good.
Okay.
Oh, I'm not good. Sorry. The metal detecting policy. We're going to look at Bow and Nashua, so we'll get that over for everybody to
Because
look
we
at.
want to do an ordinance on town property.
Do you want to do it's an ordinance, or do you want to do it as a policy? Yeah, but if you want to make it an ordinance, we can as well. Yeah, it was only for town land.
Only for
You
town
needed
land.
written permission from you.
Yeah, I think we should make it an ordinance.
Okay, so let me work with that. I'll just put the word Litchfield there, and we'll run it by legal.
Had another issue with that the other day. Somebody was metal detecting on the old muster grounds. Same person. Same person.
How's he doing?
Took it to social media and said he was in the water, not in the land.
I know
No,
that.
no, this was on the muster grounds,
Did he go in the
by the
water?
brick house.
By the brick house?
Yep. That's my understanding.
No brick house there.
Litchfield's first muster site, Sparks' old house.
Dr. Sparks' old house out through there, that's private property.
Unless I'm mistaken from what look, I can look it up real quick. Hold on one sec.
There is a stone in tall grass there.
Metal detecting on the field across from the brick house, which is owned by the town.
Oh, he wasn't on Sparks' house, the old brick
Yeah,
house
it was in
land.
the field,
He was across the
yeah,
street.
which is
and,
the old
yeah,
muster grounds from the
Okay.
Revolutionary War.
He's in the field that we plow every year.
Yep.
Or strip the turf off it, and we used land strippers back in the day.
So-
All those values were taken out by your brother. Stripping the loam off the top.
So what do we need to do about this?
On town land,
Put an ordinance in place, because then it's enforceable.
So in that case, that's owned by the land, by the town, right?
Correct.
Is it designated as a historical site?
not that I know of.
No, across the street is, right? Where the marker is,
Yes, that's it.
but it's owned by the town.
The land across the street from the brick house is owned by the town. They bought that for agricultural uses.
Yep.
Okay? The same with the piece behind me, okay? They bought that same thing. There's been people out there for years with metal detectors getting the old nails and everything out of the field. I don't know what you're gonna find out there now, because it's been plowed out. And also, the loam is stripped off the top for many years, okay, when they did turf farming out there. So we have a lot more dust down the hill. But that's another story by itself. If we wanna look at having an ordinance on town property, period, okay, or any historical site that may not be town property, is a separate matter.
Do we have any historical sites that are not town property? That have
Not
been
many.
deemed historical sites?
This one, I think, is the old brick house.
Well, the tavern, isn't the old tavern
Yeah,
historical
but it's
site?
owned by private property, they can do what they want. They have a right to do that. Okay? But on the town land, you wanna have an ordinance, it's gonna be just strictly for town land.
That's what we had talked about a couple
And that
meetings ago.
includes conservation, includes any,
Town land, it's
Conservation,
conservation
recreation.
is town land.
Anything that's owned by the town.
so
If
if
there's
you're
an easement on something that we have, that's a separate matter. Cause that's not part of the, you know, they can, an easement for this, not for that, you know?
Like if somebody wanted to do detecting on Moore's Falls, they shouldn't be able to do that.
Well, there's pros and cons to that. Detecting is good to have,
Well, they can't do it without written permission.
correct. And they got written permission, just recently on one piece by Historical Society,
So that's what it comes down to. If you don't have written permission, you can't do it.
correct. And whatever you get, you gotta give to the historical. That's what the deal is now.
yeah, some of the policies say that.
Yep,
But if it is historical, I think it goes to the state. Some of
not always. The state doesn't want it, trust me, they got too much stuff in town.
All right,
Good.
I'm good now,
All right.
sorry.
Recreation Commission, our last meeting was last Tuesday, and I was at the elections. Our next meeting is next Tuesday. School facility improvement was last Wednesday, but I had a business meeting, so I was not in attendance. Mr. Larry?
Budget committee, final review for the school tomorrow, start voting on December 1st, I believe. What we wanna, cuts and whatever,
I didn't hear
see
that.
where that goes.
Mr. Lynch?
Conservation met, we had a good time. You probably know about it already, about Moore's Falls, the trail they made through there. Well, they made a cut trail, small one to get me into there. They all like it. And, as for Jason Brenner's doing a nice job, keeping things going, and they got people going out to check the sites, Pocket Park and all this, and they found no problems. Everything's good.
Good. Mr. LaSalle's?
Yeah, the Heritage Commission was due to meet on Election Day, and that was postponed, and hopefully we'll meet in December. And the other thing that I'm on is the emergency management, and nothing going on there, thank
Pretty quiet.
goodness. But That's the status.
Congratulations on your reelection as state rep.
It's gonna be a very interesting year.
Close calls.
Because the current, there will be recounts, there's a number of recounts.
Yep.
Some very close races, but the current split is 203 to 197. So generally, there are 15 to 20 minimum legislators that don't show up on any given day. So the legislation is going to be very much dependent on who shows up.
Attendance, yeah.
And I think it would be fair to say that there will be nothing passed that is on the fringes. On either side, everything will have to be in the middle, which is good. But again, pending recounts, current split as we stand today is 203 to 197, which would put the Republicans in the majority, albeit a very small one, but for committee chairman and so forth, it would be that way. Plus for the speaker. So
Change is good.
there will be caucuses this week, in fact, to determine who's running for speaker and so forth.
Thank you. We do have one other item tonight. It's a non-public session under RSA 91A32C, employee compensation. Do we have a motion to go into non-public?
Make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Lynch,
Second.
second by Ms. Queenan. Roll call vote, Ms. Queenan.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Mr. Larry.
Aye. Aye.
All right.
All right, we are now going into non-public session. While we do not anticipate the need to
Shut this.
return to public session following the non-public session for any reason other than to adjourn the meeting, we reserve the right to do so if the non-public session necessitates the board taking action in public. We are now going into non-public. Thank you for tuning in, and everybody be well.